Unlock the path to healing with Exposed podcast. Join us as therapists from around the world break mental health taboos, share powerful stories, and provide insights that transform lives. Tune in, educate, and thrive.
With traumatic memories, we can very easily desensitize traumatic memories because every time you access a memory, you change it, and memories can be influenced by your emotional state when you access.
Hello and welcome to Expose podcast. I'm your host Anastasia and I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest Mark Stubbles. Mark is an award-winning clinical hypnotherapist and a master practitioner of NLP and mindfulness. With his expertise, he has transformed countless lives, helping people from around the world overcome smoking, addiction, achieve weight loss goals, and boost their self-confidence, self-esteem through powerful hypnosis techniques. Mark's journey is deeply personal, having to overcome chronic anxiety himself. His true passion lies in guiding others to conquer anxiety, depression, and mental issues, to find hope and help through his target of hypnotherapy approach. He's also a creator of highly acclaimed online courses which are helping others to reach to help even more exciting and powerful lifestyle. Please help me to welcome Mark Stubbles into the show. Thank you so much, Mark, for coming. How are you?
Hello, Anastasia. I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm excited to have you. We talked, a few days back. Had short chat. Could you share with our audience a little bit of your story? What made you to do what you are doing today? Why hypnotherapy? And
Well, I'd always suffered with anxiety until I was about 36 years old when I discovered hypnotherapy. Until that point, anxiety had been a big problem for me. It caused me issues with work. I found it difficult to keep a job. It caused me to get into the wrong relationships and have all kinds of relationship issues. And then after a difficult divorce, which involved a lot of legal issues and going backwards and forwards to court for about 5 years, I found myself in another awkward relationship, and I decided that I needed to change. I needed to make some adjustments. I kept finding myself in these situations, so the common denominator was me. So I started looking to overcome anxiety. I felt that I'd been getting into relationships for the wrong reasons. I'd been looking to other people to make me feel more secure. I decided that I needed to make myself feel secure. So I started looking at hypnotherapy, and that was when things really began to change. I was able to become more confident, to start to do things on my own. I was able to break away from toxic people. It wasn't until a couple of years after doing hypnotherapy, I started doing hypnotherapy training, did a few hypnotherapy courses. I was still experiencing relationship issues. And that was when I started to look at inner child healing and inner child work. And that was really when I saw the most profound change, the biggest improvement.
Thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing part of your story. What made you to change into hypnotherapy? For our audience who never tried hypnotherapy, could you explain how does it work? And is it possible? Like, what's the timeline around having hypnotherapy session to start seeing results?
But hypnotherapy is a natural state that we all experience several times during the course of a day. You know, driven somewhere, got into your destination, not remembered the journey. That's hypnosis. Been reading a book, zoned out, lost track of time. You finished the book and you thought, wow, where did all that time go? Time just flew. That would be an example of hypnosis. And it can be a very relaxing state, but it doesn't have to be. A lot of people who play sports have had the experience of playing a sport and getting a small nick or cut, and they don't realise it until after the game that they're playing is finished, and they look down and see, oh, I'm bleeding, it hurts. So it's because they were focused on what they were doing. So it's a flow state. There's lots of theories about what hypnotherapy is and isn't. That is probably the clearest, simplest explanation. Some people believe that with hypnotherapy, we're accessing the theta brainwave state, and theta is part of the REM sleep cycle. It increases a person's ability to visualize, and it allows your mind to process information. So theta is when we dream, and it's said that dreams are the mind's way of processing information. If you didn't dream, you'd go mad, and they've actually done experiments when they've deprived people of REM sleep and found all kinds of negative effects for them mentally. So another theory is that with hypnosis, we're looking to access that state. Certainly, it improves a person's ability to visualize, and your mind can't tell the difference between a real or an imagined event, which means that with traumatic memories, we can very easily desensitize traumatic memories, because every time you access a memory, you change it, and memories can be influenced by your emotional state when you access. If you're nice and relaxed when you remember a traumatic memory, it's not going to have the same impact on you as it would if you were, alert and in a beta brainwave state. So, yes, that is hypnosis, and your mind can't tell the difference between a real or an imagined event. Another benefit of that is that you can visualize yourself the way you want to be, and you actually create new neural pathways in your brain. The more you visualize yourself that way, the stronger those neural pathways become, the more you're going to become that person.
So we can not only change our past through the experience of trauma you mentioned, but also the future, because our brain doesn't recognize what's now, what's in the past, what's in the future. It's everything is going on here. When I think about it, it's actually subconsciously thinks that's what's going on.
Absolutely. And another interesting thing about trauma and time, the emotional part of your brain can't tell the difference between something that happened 5 minutes ago and something that happened 5 years ago. So a traumatic memory will carry the same emotional weight, whether it happened just now or 5 years ago. Traumatic memories, when you find yourself in a traumatic situation, your mind needs to remember it so you don't get into that situation again in the future, or so that you can react to it quickly if you do. So traumatic memories carry more emotional weight than standard memories. And yeah, using hypnosis, we can release the negative emotions related to memories. Again, the theory is that moves the memory from the amygdala, the emotional part of the brain, to the thinking part of the brain, and it can be processed like a normal memory.
You mentioned something that every time we access some event from the past, the event changes.
Yeah.
Even when we do it just thinking about it, like without hypnosis, that it happens. Or could you share a little more on that?
Yeah, so your emotional state can influence your memories. And they've done experiments where they got two groups of people and they sat them in a room and they watched a video of a car crash. And then they interviewed the two groups to see, how they perceived the accident. And with one group, they used very dramatic words like crash and smash. And with another group, they used less dramatic words like bump. They found with the group that they used more dramatic words, they reported seeing a lot more blood, a lot more broken glass, a lot more damage. And the group where less drastic words were used, they reported seeing a lot less severe accidents.
I find it very interesting because it means that our genetics also might influence it, like subgenerational trauma, like having history of war in the past, and actually you being right now being either witness or experiencing some accident can bring up some stuff which is not even yours. Make you be like more like panicking when others don't panic. And does it does hypnotherapy can actually change your response, which is like the fight, flight, freeze, what's the third one? Fight, flight, freeze, phone.
Well, traditionally, it's fight, flight. It's fight, flight, freeze. In more recent times, they've added a fourth one called fawn. If you fawn, it's codependency. You try to serve other people, put other people's needs for your own. Try to appease others.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know about genetics, but I think trauma can definitely be generational. What we don't heal, we either reenact on others or find new people to repeat on us. So if a parent doesn't heal their trauma, I do believe that they will definitely pass that on to their children.
You mentioned inner child work and shadow work. Could you share what it is for our audience who might heard or seen on social media, but what it really is, and how hypnotherapy or other techniques help to?
Well, inner child work, as children, we need what are known as good enough parents. A good enough parent provides unconditional love, unconditional acceptance. Child's going to know that they will get their needs met no matter what, that they're loved and accepted unconditionally, whether they're good or bad. Most parents, because they carry their own trauma, because they didn't have good enough parents, they will parent the way they were parented, which means it's not possible for them to be good enough parents. So the child will take on family roles as a way to matter within the family unit, and a child doesn't want to see their parents as bad because that could be life threatening. They're reliant on them to feed them, to clothe them. They're a lot bigger than they are. So the child internalizes dysfunction. They think it means they're bad, and it creates toxic shame, creates a negative self-image. So inner child work isn't about blaming parents. It's not about having a victim mentality. It's about releasing that toxic shame, externalizing that toxic shame, maybe understanding your parents and what could have made them, the way they were, if they were abusive in some way. I mean, everyone is doing the best they can with what they have. I really like to believe that. So everyone, again, if they don't heal, then they're acting unconsciously. They're passing that toxic shame on to their own children. Their children are an easy target for their toxic shame and insecurities. So inner child work is about releasing that stuff, externalizing that stuff, understanding, that stuff, where it came from. It's about becoming a good enough parent to yourself. It's about giving yourself unconditional love, unconditional acceptance, and being able to break free of the conditioning of the old rules.
Could you talk a little bit about codependency? Because I feel like you're right now we're touching that topic, um, specifically using hypnotherapies in breaking trauma bond or anxious attachment style. Is it any research or your own experience which proves that hypnotherapy might work for codependent people? Which there is a lot, like the behavioral therapy and the AMDR and all of that. And I feel like there's not enough talk about hypnotherapy. I haven't seen enough.
Absolutely. Hypnotherapy will definitely help with that. And inner child healing hypnotherapy, most specifically. Codependency, the most basic definition of codependency is someone that looks outside of themselves to feel okay. So, as I spoke about, if you grow up with dysfunction, you're going to be having to look outside of yourself to feel okay. You're going to internalize the message that you're not okay. And I spoke about the fawn response. The fawn response says that a child can't fight back, can't run away. Freezing is going to get them more hurt. So they learn to fawn, they learn to put their parents' needs before their own. They learn to appease their parents. So they become fawners and they go through life, that's how they get their sense of value, by serving others, by doing all they can to keep other people happy. So inner child work can definitely help with that, because it can allow you to feel okay, to see yourself as a good object, to not need to look outside of yourself to get a sense of value, sense of self-worth. And also, if you see yourself as faulty in some way, you're going to develop fear of abandonment and a fear of rejection. And again, you're going to serve other people. You're going to be afraid to say no to other people. Maybe you would have been emotionally blackmailed as a child, a parent telling you, if you don't do what I want, it means you don't love me, or didn't raise you to be like this. Shaming the child into doing what they want them to do, which is then going to show up in their relationships. Again, that's going to lead to that codependent, people-pleasing behaviour. So inner child work and hypnotherapy can really help a person to release that stuff, to see themselves as okay, and not look outside of themselves, to increase their self-esteem, and to be able to develop boundaries. Again, as children, particularly up until 18 months to 3 years, we have no boundaries. We see everything as ourselves pushed out, and that we're forming boundaries as we grow. If we're growing up with very narcissistic parents, we're not going to be able to form boundaries, and we are going to agree to things that we shouldn't agree to. We're going to see toxic behaviours, and we're not going to think there's anything wrong with those toxic behaviours. Also, if we are growing up in dysfunction, we're going to become comfortable with that dysfunction, and we're going to be making unconscious contracts with people who complement our family system, who treat us the same way we were treated as a child, even if that wasn't good. That is the sort of people we're going to be drawn to. That is the sort of treatment we are going to continually be drawn to.
Well, thank you for sharing all that holistic view. So if I was your patient in hypnotherapy, what can I expect? Like, let's say all that happens, right? And and yeah, what can I expect after few sessions with you? Is it like 2 years of having hypnotherapy? Like normally with therapy, you need to go, 2 years at least, to have some.
It depends. It it depends on the client and what they come to me with. Where I think traditional therapy and counselling, things like that, fail is they're not goal orientated. And if you don't know where you want to go, you're never going to get there. Trying to heal trauma is going to be like peeling an onion. You're going to, peel away one layer, and then there's going to be another. You're just going to go deeper and deeper into that stuff. So the first thing I would do with clients on the very first session is to ask them what they want to get from therapy. How will they know that therapy has been successful? And most clients, PTSD is my favorite. Maybe not favorite, might be the wrong word, but that is the thing that I feel I get most success. I see most success in my clients from. We can usually help clients overcome that in 3 to 6 sessions. Depression, again, 3 to 6 sessions. If someone has, maybe deep-seated issues, it can take longer. But the vast majority of my clients see the results they're looking for within 3 to 6 sessions. Most clients notice the result after the very first session.
Could you talk a little bit about weight gain and hypnotherapy? How people can use hypnotherapy to actually, lose weight? I saw on your YouTube channel talking about it in your videos, and it's a topic which is always present in some.
Okay. Yeah, but first of all, on the topic heal, or the word heal, you have to be careful about the use of words. I wouldn't say heal, I would say overcome, because that could cause issues with the medical profession.
Okay, let's say overcome. I will edit it. So it takes from 6 to 8 sessions to overcome PTSD and 6 to 8 sessions to overcome anxiety or depression symptoms.
Absolutely, yes.
Um,
And with weight loss, weight loss is usually caused by a deeper issue. Again, going back to the inner child and inner child work, food is the most common substance that people use to try and suppress their emotions. Emotional eating is a very common problem. So by doing the inner child work, healing the inner child, making yourself feel safe, feel secure, feel accepted, by accepting your emotions and not feeling that you need to suppress your emotions, you can overcome issues with emotional eating, and that will, of course, result in weight loss. Weight loss, I've had clients before who have, again, as I said, it's usually a deeper issue. There's usually a secondary gain, something that the person is getting from being overweight. And it ties in with codependency as well. I've had clients before who have come to me because they want to lose weight. Then after a couple of sessions, they tell me, their partner isn't happy about it. Their partner's feeling insecure in the relationship, that it's causing issues in the relationship. So yeah, it can be a very, very complex problem. And I think, like most things, its root is usually in the inner child.
as we are getting to the end, Mark, what's one lesson or few lessons which you learn through working with as a hypnotherapist with your client?
For me, the most profound thing that I learned with regards to anxiety is what resists not only persists but becomes stronger. So the more you try and fight against a feeling or an emotion, the more attention, more energy you're giving to that feeling, and the stronger it's going to become. So the most profound change that people will experience will be if they learn not to try and suppress negative emotions. And thoughts as well. People identify with their thoughts. Again, if you grow up in a narcissistic environment, an environment where you're constantly being attacked, put down, called names, you're going to internalize that, and it's going to create negative self-talk. And people, again, a lot of people, probably most people, experience that negative inner voice that tells them they're not good enough, or they're stupid, or they're fat, continually attacking them, putting them down. And when they hear that, they try and fight against it, they try and suppress it, and that gives it more weight. So not resisting those things, just allowing those things to be, you'll notice that they reduce down. So yeah, the most important thing that I think people could take away from this discussion is what resists not only persists but becomes stronger.
In this conversation, you mentioned so many times the word anxiety, and I pay attention. Could you share, before we end, the definition of what's anxiety? Why some people have it, even though they go through the same family system, and another sibling doesn't have that level of anxiety?
Anxiety is a conditioned response which is caused by living in a state of fear, by being repeatedly exposed to things that cause us fear. Everyone's probably heard the story of Ivan Pavlov and his dogs. Anxiety works the same way. It's a conditioned response. So we associate, when we're repeatedly exposed to fear, we learn to associate things with that fear. And then when we experience those things, when we're presented with those things, that causes anxiety. So when a person is experiencing anxiety, they're moving into the fight or flight state. Symptoms of anxiety such as sweating, increased breathing, blood flow pumping around the body. Those symptoms are designed to get you out of danger, to enable you to fight back or run away. So, yeah, anxiety is a conditioned response from being repeatedly exposed to things that cause us fear.
So it means that the body is something triggers from outside, like you mentioned of the dog experiment, and the body is living the past and creating this, sweating and all of those responses which the body is releasing, some level of stress.
Yeah, absolutely. And because people identify with those feelings, and as I spoke about earlier, see those feelings as bad, try and think it means there's something wrong with them. If they're feeling that way, they try and suppress it, and then that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. They become anxious about things that cause them to feel anxious, and then they start to avoid those things, and then they become anxious about things related to those things, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It just grows and grows on itself until a person's agoraphobic and afraid to leave the house.
Is that why people actually, commit suicide? Because they get into that cycle of like constant, that cycle of like, I'm not good enough, the world is not good enough, the future and the past is not good enough. and it's actually the repetition of something we didn't face in the past, and it keeps coming back on the surface, but instead of facing it, we keep suppressing it and thinking we should avoid it, like you mentioned before. What we repress tends to exaggerate and being
absolutely, yeah. And A man called Lao Tzu said that depression is living in the past, anxiety is living in the future, and peace is living in the present. So again, mindful hypnosis with, as I said, a focused state of attention, it can allow a person to move more into the present, and it can increase mindfulness. It can, again, stop people from associating with their thoughts and their feelings, to see them as separate from themselves, that they're there to serve them, not to, cause them negative feelings. And then when people do that, they are able to be more present and experience that peace that Lao Tzu was talking about.
Thank you so much, Mark Stubbles. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Stubbles on the Expose podcast. I will make sure to include all your links, but for those who want to just right now Instagram follow you and subscribe your YouTube channel, could you mention your Instagram name?
Yep, on Instagram I'm M Stubbles, that's STUBBLES. On YouTube, Mark Stubbles, MarkStubbles. They can find me there.
I hope you enjoyed this interview, and please subscribe my YouTube channel. For you, it's a one click. For me, it means the possibility to continue creating impact in the world with those videos. Thank you, and see you soon.